What up, 5 o'clock hustlers? Welcome back to the 5 o'clock hustle podcast. This is episode 6. 6 episodes. That's actually the number of episodes Dre and I committed to when we started the podcast. And it doesn't look like we're going to stop anytime soon. In fact, I think we're just starting to get our stride. At the time of recording this intro, it's January 2nd, so happy New Year's to everyone listening. 2017 has been quite the ride for us, both individually and for the 5-0 podcast. We acquired a new host with Dean Scott. We've built a new website, and just last week, Dre had a baby. That's right. So congratulations to Dre and Melissa for the new addition to their family, little Miss Reagan Olivia Curtis. I'm going to go ahead and dedicate this episode to their new baby girl. Speaking of today's episode, we had an awesome chat with Mike Cook, aka Cookie. He's an extremely talented artist based out of Los Angeles and founder of the Street Art Loft. It's a creative studio that does anything from custom murals to creative consulting and even video production. He's currently publishing his first book. It's called Cookie the Discovery Edition, and you can reserve your copy by following the links in the show notes. Mike does an amazing job bringing his brand to life and was able to shed some light on how us 5 o'clock hustlers can do the same. In this episode, we touched on topics including the struggles of marrying art and business, the current climate of artists in the digital age, the importance of brand identity, and much, much more. So go check out Cookie's work on his site, thestreetartloft.com, and definitely check out what he's up to on Instagram. You can find him at akacookie.official. All the links are in the show notes, so just go check it out there. All right. Before we start the show, we need to ask you a favor. Since we've recorded 6 episodes and met our 2017 podcasting resolution, we decided to keep the ball rolling. So help us meet our new 2018 resolution and rank on iTunes. The only way that we can do that is if you go right now, subscribe, and leave a review. If you listen from another app like Stitcher, go and do the same there. It would really mean the world to us, though. You can find the links easily by going to this episode's page on our site, 5o'clockhustle.com/cookie. Okay, Happy New Year's, everyone. Let's make 2018 count, and as always, keep hustling. Dre, start the show.
5 o'clock hustle.
5 to 8, 5 to 12, 5 to 3 until you get back up the next morning.
Every week I got a new idea. Like, why did it take us so long to do this? 5 o'clock.
I was doing that in 2005, but everybody thought it was weird.
5 o'clock.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
5 o'clock hustle podcast. Man, they're having so much fun. We're going to jump into this now. Mike Cook, thank you for coming on the podcast. Yeah?
Okay.
Dean?
No, I was just going to say, I mean, before we jump in the podcast.
Well, yeah.
No, we are, but we're not. We're jumping. We're jumping, but we're not jumping.
We're slowly skating into it. Oh. What is it, Dean?
No, I was just going to say,
I was trying to introduce our guest.
I know. I want to wait.
He was doing a good job. You guys are both doing a great job.
He's doing a killer job. I'm just wondering what you want to crown as your achievements. What are your goals right now? Like, what are you... If we were to introduce you, which we're about to do, how do you want to be introduced? Like, what
that's a good
you know what I'm saying?
question.
Like, what is it that you specialize in? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to create? What are you trying to achieve? You know, like,
it's a hard question.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
like, in a general sense, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to title yourself, right? I mean, it's hard to title yourself as a creative, you know, and I think a lot of artists like struggle with that. Specifically just because, you know, if you're a true artist, you're always evolving yourself, right? So it's like you're always like studying maybe lyrics more because you want to learn something new, you know, you want to be more innovative. And, you know, it becomes like, you know, a connection of my heart and soul and my mind. And you're like, well, you know, I'm not... You know, everybody likes it, but who really gives a shit?
Sure,
Sorry, can I swear? No,
swear. No, oh my God.
Sorry, I don't know. You know, I don't want to get in the habit of it if I can, you know.
I try to start every podcast with saying fucking.
All right. But I don't want to, you know, just do stuff that makes other people happy. Like, yeah, like I know it helps sales and, I'll do something or, obviously there's a market for that,
Sure,
and you always have to kind of think that way as a designer of anything if you're working for corporate companies or even just selling a painting.
Right.
But, what I've learned over the years is that I wanted to be a creative and not a creator, and there was a big difference, to that to me is like, I don't want to be someone who's just the tool. I don't want to be the guy who's literally just this great artist who just, when he touches a pen to paper, like he's the shit, because that's how everybody thinks of me. And I'm like, that's not what I think of myself.
Right.
Okay.
My dad was a creative guy, but I used to think he was not creative. I was like, dude, you're like the most uncreative guy on the planet. And you're super dorky. And like, I used
Was
to
that
like.
a real conversation? Like,
No, I mean, but I used to, like, it's the whole, like, my parents don't understand, like, they just don't get me. Like, I am this, like, wildflower of creativity, and you just don't get me. But he was, like, in missile defense, and doing that kind of stuff. And he was the lead engineer of THAAD.
Okay,
Have you ever heard of that? It was a pretty big project.
Yeah.
But he was, like, the system architect. So he, like, designs, like, the whole system. And I looked at someone like that, and I said, he's crazy. Like, I don't think he's like creative. I just thought of him as like numbers and, physics and doctors, And then when I realized like what true creativity was about the process of creativity and about how you can learn and always evolve. And then, mix this with this and you get something new.
Right.
When I learned that kind of a thing, it was like, it really didn't matter what the medium was you're working in.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think some of your accomplishments have been thus far?
Surviving.
That
was a good one. I mean, I was pretty proud of that one.
No, it could be theoretical. Or,
no, I get you.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I was dead serious about it though. I mean, really, as an artist, just making enough money to be doing what I do, is an accomplishment, and then like being able to be like, well, how do you take a month when you don't know where your next check's coming from, and then pull it out of your ass and just like bam, and like and you push yourself and you're like, I'm gonna be better, I'm gonna be better, I'm gonna be better, I'm gonna keep searching to be better.
Perfect.
Right?
All right, we'll stop there. Go for it.
Boom. Okay. Sick. That was organic. Okay, so
we're all about it over here.
You came on our today's podcast. Thank you for coming in, Mike Cook.
Thank you. I'm bowing.
There it is.
I think Dre and I were actually tossing your name around when we first thought of this because we were thinking about like, let's think about our community first.
Yeah.
Like let's focus here and then we'll spread our wings and and reach where we're gonna reach. But yeah, like I've always like I see your work all over the place on
all over our area for sure.
Yeah, and I'm not too sure the status of your studio because I knew you had a place over in Agora Hills
for like 3 years.
Yeah, and. Like
I was stuck in a lease. Couldn't get out of it. I had to be there for 3 years, But
I went to an opening there. It was really nice.
Yeah, did you? Yeah. That's awesome, man. I wish I would have made it to one of those, but
I think I was in Texas at the time.
That's a whole crazy dynamic. I'm interested to hear about that too. But
there's a long story. I mean, there's a lot of stories to there.
Well, let's get into it. Your company,
the Street Art Loft.
The Street Art Loft.
That's one of my companies.
You started that also about 3 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, originally we called ourselves Cookies Art Studio. It's really the LLC that owns the Street Art Loft. It's a DBA. We do businesses at Street Art Loft mainly because we were trying to bring that culture to an area where there wasn't anything like that, and we were trying to find what is the relevant term that we're the uneducated could understand, because it was just the idea of paint on walls. It wasn't thinking, what's graffiti? Let's, I don't want to be the graffiti studio, because I'm not a graffiti artist, and I don't want people to think I'm a graffiti artist.
Sure, yeah.
So we called it the Street Art Loft because we were this like funky loft upstairs, in this unique area, and like, we were going to bring artists from LA, and we did. We brought a lot of artists from LA, and they did shows there, and we did live painting shows, and brought the best. I pushed myself to find the best guys in the community and invite them in. We would do stuff together, collab. all sorts of stuff.
All right. So what's the status today? What are you doing today, right now?
Well, after the second year of just hustling and doing shows, and the struggles of the community's acceptance, we had a lot of positive feedback. We were making decent money, and and it's like there's like that. Do I really want to have like a retail spot, fucking
That's
have to
tough.
open something every day and close it and clean it, and
Because and I imagine for artists, almost all artists, you don't necessarily need that spot to do what you are looking to do. It's more of trying to figure out how to do it more, really, right?
Well, I have a business partner, and she was a friend of mine, and she believed in me so much that she wanted to invest into me, and we came up with that concept. And over the years, we were doing all sorts of stuff, from events and conventions and business installations, mural installations, all sorts of different stuff that we were making different money from, because you kind of have to be multifaceted to make money in a creative field.
How do you make money? I know it's a stupid question. It seems obvious to you, but how do you actually make money? What are you making money
I
on?
wish it was obvious, because I would have figured it out way faster. But it's different for every artist. It depends on the potential you have with your portfolio, right? And the range of types of opportunities you can create for yourself. If you can only paint on canvas, then good luck. You're going to have to push a lot of canvases. But if you could think outside the box and try to present different things, when I wanted to make money painting murals, I'd never painted a mural before in my life, and I was seeing all these guys painting murals, and I was like, man, dude, how much do they get paid to paint these murals? I was just I want to paint murals. So I just started doing it, and I just said, who's got a wall? I'm going to do it for free. So I just did it, and I just painted it. Wow. and then next thing you know, people were calling me saying, I want you to paint my mural. And I was like, oh, cool. So, this is actually this is the way to do it. Just start doing it.
If you build it, they will come.
Right.
100%. They have to see it,
When was that?
Which one? The very first mural?
Yeah, when you first let's just do this.
I'm can't even think back. I don't even remember. 3 and a half years, 3 years ago. Because we're in my fourth year of my business, so 3.5 years ago.
So I was gonna say real quick, because we're talking about what you do. I'm a storyteller. I do music, write, and everything. So I like the story. So kind of give us a background of how you even got into art in the first place. How did it spark your interest?
And probably why people are wondering why the hell do they call this guy Cookie or something?
Right.
I try introducing yourself to a street artist and some mean thug and be like, hey, I'm Cookie. Nice to meet you. They go, okay, queer. And I'm like, damn it. It sounded so much better.
You can't say that on.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, it's how I feel in the moment. I just feel a little flamboyant, but it's all right. But okay, so I guess my background. I fell in love with animation first. That was every kid. You're watching cartoons every Saturday morning, and you're running.
Are you saying hentai, or you? What do you mean?
What?
Okay, good. Okay, good. Keep going.
Oh,
Keep
yeah.
going. I just make sure you didn't fall in a certain type of love of animation.
Oh, no. Actually, I'm an old school animation lover. I really loved Chuck Jones. He's my hero. Original Looney Tunes stuff.
Yeah,
that's
the more
amazing,
twisted, the art was, the funny it was, kind of where there's this kind of subtle humor that people don't really understand that's there.
Cool.
Or the twisting of when someone smiles and there's that little twist into it, or it's almost like the curl of a mustache, because the Grinch animation from the 1970s, which was done by Chuck Jones for Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss didn't do that, but Chuck Jones did it, and that's why it looked so cool. And I was obsessed with that specific show.
Naturalist.
I had to watch it every year, and I would draw it, and I would copy things. I would copy the Tasmanian Devil. I was copying all these Chuck Jones and some Disney, but mostly all Chuck Jones.
Yeah.
And then my dad's when I was playing sports in high school and stuff, he's like, don't quit on that art stuff,
it's kind of nudging you toward
he was the one who first said don't give it up, he was
That's
the one.
amazing.
Yeah,
that's real good for him to identify that. And push you towards it still.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he was a musician, a singer. So like for him, like he's always been kind of in touch with his creative side. So like for him, like he was just wanted to see me like exercise that outlet, you know.
Of course.
And he's like, you could be a real animator. You can go make money doing this. And I'm like, no, I can't. You know, like I don't know like how to do that. And you know, that's how I started going to school for it, and got my bachelor's in fine art and painting, and studied painting, and then I worked for a famous artist for a while. Back when we used to like all hang out, like when we were a lot younger, I had a lot more energy. His name was.
We all, man, didn't we?
I don't know if you ever heard of him. His name is Justin Bua. He had like the hip hop art where it's like the guys with the really long fingers and the DJ.
I have one of those paintings in my.
Four of them. I have four of them.
Yeah.
I have the
That's
guy
awesome.
on the piano. I've got the one with the bass. Yeah.
I used to do like cleanup work for him. Like I used to be like on his paintings, like sometimes cleaning up like things, or you know, finding reference photos as he's coming up with ideas, and I'm helping him like, you know, different types of different day, different thing.
Yeah.
You know, I did a mural for him. My first mural was with him, and I was doing it for Tony Parker.
Oh, nice. San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah, so I got to stay in Tony Parker's house for like a week. So like I started falling in love.
Wow.
I started falling in love with like, you know, that kind of life. You know, I was like, I'm not making any money, but like if I made money doing this, this would be awesome.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how the spark really blew up. And
That's so cool, man.
Nice, man. And so from there, after that experience, you just decided, hey, I'm going to open up this shop, or was there something in between that experience and you opening up your business?
I mean, like I said, it was someone who believed in me, really. It was not, I actually didn't even have the idea to do it until, you know, my business partner, Lori Monaco, said, you know, you're awesome and I love your work. And she had already bought, you know, a piece or two from me, and she knew that, you know, I had something special to like what I do. And she was like, I want to invest in you, and, you know, wrote a check and started, you know, investing into me. And you know, we brainstormed together and tried to come up with some good ideas. And, you know, we failed in some things, but that was business, you know. We were both kind of learning in it, you know, like, but we've succeeded, you know, because we were willing to be persistent. We were willing to do the work. We were willing to like keep learning, you know, and keep going out there and asking questions. And, you know, we didn't just hit and run.
How is it when, you know, that's kind of a turning point in every person's path, when you look at your passion and you're like, oh man, I love this, I want to do it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, there's money involved in it too? Like how, you know, you get that insurge of dough. How did that change, or did that change anything for you? I mean, as far as the stress, you know,
it messed my head up big time.
Did it?
Oh yeah, like I mean, like I hadn't taken a master's yet. You know, I wasn't at like, I would say, a higher level of thinking as a designer. You know, I believed in what I could do as a designer. You know, I knew that I could paint. I knew I could draw really well, but I wasn't at the point where I knew I was going to blow up. You know, I was like, I don't even know who I am yet as an artist. You know, I'm still learning, you know, the kind of artist I can really be. You know, I was selling some things well, and, you know, that was cool, but like, I didn't know what, like, I didn't know what was going to happen. And it confused me, because I think I was like, I went on a panic and I just started creating because I wanted to prove myself, you know, and then it's like that thing, like when you try to turn yourself into a factory when you're not ready, you like don't produce the quality that you want, you know, like you're just like, this isn't the artist I wanted to be either, you know?
So
then you're
cranking
like,
out shit. I mean,
and you're like, people are buying it and like they love it and it like fits the brand, you know, but it's like at the same time, you're like, dude, I'm so much better than this. I should take my time. You know, I need to do the proper research. I need to like, you know, learn.
It's really interesting.
You know, so it was a struggle. It was a struggle.
Yeah. So the money just kind of put added pressure on you to perform, even though you kind of, you know, you took it in a way where maybe if you just slowed down a little bit, you would have been turning out better product. But you were just turning out stuff no matter what. But it was making numbers.
It's like a way. It's like, you know, like no matter what you do, you did it. You know, but like you know, it was a learning experience regardless, because you know, it just teaches you like when you do your next endeavor, to do the research, to do the development, to do the, look into it, and I think it taught me more as like an entrepreneur type of a creative than just like a painter, like what else could I do? I don't have to fixate myself on just being like, well, if this doesn't work, then I'm screwed and I should go get a job at TJ Maxx. Not downing TJ Maxx, it just first thing that came to my head.
They're probably so happy
They're
with
actually
stuff at some
sponsoring
point.
the show. No, but good, man. So, where do you see like the art space I'm an artistic person, and we bounce off of each other on this podcast. They're very business minded, and I got a little business, but I'm a very artistic person. So like, as of now, like, where do you see the art space? Because I went to this random pop up in LA one time, and it was a pancakes and booze art show.
I did one of those shows when they first started.
Did you really?
Yeah, like a long time ago.
I thought it was the coolest thing, and like I had been to art events before, but I'd never really just kind of immersed myself in that, and so I just kind of saw it being like it's like a sub-genre of like just what's going on, but now it's more of an entrepreneurial type thing as opposed to like a artistic type thing.
The event itself.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So like where do you see
it's a gimmick
art?
In a way more than it's a...
Kind of.
Yeah.
So I like, for me, it was cool, but it kind of took the art away from it because it just seemed like people were like, oh, pancakes and booze. Like,
right, they're focused on that more than they're focused on the art.
So where do you think art is now as a, just... whether it's murals, whether it's, canvases, things like where is that space right now?
Would you say, like, are you, like, specifically referring to a community like Los Angeles or?
Like, I mean, all over. Like, like
that's a
you
big
said,
question.
like you said, you went overseas and you met a guy and he showed you his basement and stuff like that. So is there like a huge community still?
I think that it's a blur right now. I think everyone's confused and everyone's trying to figure out, like, they're all hustling. I mean, from my perspective, it's all been, watching each famous artist to new artist. There's no difference between the two on a social media spectrum. You can say like, oh, you're Joe Schmo and you sit in your closet all day painting and you can have 100,000 followers. If there's some sort of like gimmick to like what you do that everyone's like, I gotta watch this guy. I love he does these swirly things and I gotta watch him. I'm just like, I'm in a
Bob Ross.
Yeah, like it doesn't really matter. It's the social media has just totally spun it out of control because now it's not. You don't have to go to a gallery to become established.
Do you think it's you say spun it out of control? I mean, do you think social media has ruined the integrity of art?
I think it just doesn't know how to do anything with it yet. Like, I think that it's going to evolve. I think that they're just not presenting it the right way. Mm-hmm. It's like everything always evolves, right? So I don't think that anything's ever done and ended. So
sure.
I think it's just not working right now and not working as efficiently as it could.
For who?
For the artists.
Okay. Yeah.
For young artists, it works great, because you're like, hey, I've got 5,000 followers. I killed myself to get it, but now my friends treat my art like it's a real thing, and I don't have to just give my art away. I can sell something, and that's really the hard part of becoming an artist is showing value in your work. Yeah. And how do you show value in it? Is it just that the image looks really good and someone connects with it, or is it there are other ways to validate that? And that's what galleries did for years. They validate you because they show you, and if you sell well, they'll keep you, and if you don't, then kick you out the door. And you keep trying to build a reputation, and if you sell well enough, then an auction house takes you. And if an auction house sells your work really well, then boom, you're in a circuit of auction houses, and you're at a whole nother level.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
See, and the reason that I asked that is because I kind of want to make the correlation for like our audience of, because we cater to a lot of entrepreneurs and, 5 o'clock hustle. So in that space, there also is a bunch of, watered down things. Like you have like these people who are motivational speakers, for instance. They've been doing it for 20 years, but now you have like these 19-year-old life coaches who like can just post something on Instagram, have 75,000 followers.
Does the life coach have his shirt off and he's like...
Right. He's like, look, I can show you how to, so
just
like,
money,
I feel like
Lamborghinis.
exactly.
That's all it is.
And so I just kind of wanted to make the correlation between like the art world, the entrepreneur world, because they do intertwine, but just of how you kind of navigate through the watered downness of everything and stick true to, your values and everything, and how do you thrive in the current, climate of
Yeah,
your
the
space.
current situation
Right.
that we're in.
Exactly.
It's the be ready to pivot. That mentality is the same as any entrepreneur. It's like be ready to pivot. Like don't just put all your eggs in one basket. Like just keep moving, keep pushing. Search other opportunities. Don't just like push one thing because then it's gonna be really hard. Like if you fail, like it's gonna make you feel bad. It's like you got to take some little successes, and like for me it was like I sold a mural this month and that paid the bills, or I did this month, and that's how I started doing it. But I went to go get an education and get my master's in media design, so that way I could think beyond the product. I was like, there has to be something more valuable to me than the products that I'm creating, because if I get hired at some studio as a graphic designer or temporary gig of doing something, because now we're in the gig economy of, of creative gigs, and like, oh, you're in Flavor and you should do this and you should get, have a contest to see who should do that logo. And I'm like, no, if you can prove yourself that you're unique and that you're creative at a higher level, then they'll seek you out, and you don't have to say, I'm going to jump through hoops to do this project for you, and you got to set the budget, at $300. I'm like, no, I'm setting the budget. This is what it is. If you can afford it, no. If you can't afford it, payment plan. Do you know what I mean?
Right. So you do you have that part pretty much figured out now, or is that something you're always...
It's just like any business model, it's like success rate of X. It's like the idea is there, but there's like, I would never say that like there's one way to do something, it's just the way that I've learned is more valuable because I have a higher success rate. I'm hitting more like sales, or I'm getting this, or I'm working on this project now. And I think that's what makes it hard is like once you start really hitting it, and you're like, man, like I guess I am an entrepreneur. I guess I am doing this.
Is that what you want? Like, how do you get that balance? Like because
I'm still figuring that out.
Right? Because like you grew up like loving art, wanting to be like copy all these like amazing artists. And then, developing yourself as an artist. And then there's this whole other spectrum that comes in. And I guess it's like kind of what allows you to do the thing that you love, really. Like but what is it? Like is that what it is? Like you're just trying to find ways to do more of what you love? Or is it that this is me and I just want to make my life about it and, try and just make this me and be able to physically.
Right. It's like I'd say more the latter, like what you were saying, just because it's like it's hard to say that like you have a title, like I said, but if you like say, but I have to be making things, like that's really what it is. Like it's like I have to be building something or making something and thinking conceptually. Like that's that's my comfort zone, So like I'm like if I'm making an app. And I'm working with a team of developers and I'm like consulting on them as now an art director of, that's what I'm doing on one of my projects is like, that makes it fun for me because I feel respected as this creative individual who gets to think creatively and teach them how to think creatively, right? And teach them the value of design and teach them the value of certain things, right? So... because it all parallels, like if you're looking at a painting or you're looking at an app, there's still an engagement that's similar. Yeah. So that's like what I love to do. It's like I love to create visuals that create some sort of emotional impact. If I'm doing that in some way or another, whether it's a video or photography or a painting or, an app, it's always about that stimulation and that engagement that you're getting.
So you're pretty self-aware, more so than probably most people in your space, to be honest with you, and it's impressive. Just straight up. I mean, I'm sitting here. I've never heard you say any of this before, but what I hear.
You don't talk about this at the bar, right?
No, you don't. But, so what I hear is that you're super self-aware, that you understand something that a lot of people don't, which is that the 5 o'clock hustle, the after hours, the what you're doing, your passion project is integral. I mean, it is really, you need it. You need it more so than selling out. Self versus sell. I mean, you get self. Yeah. That's all I hear from you is that you want to be the creator. You really want to, own that. I mean, did that come naturally? Like, how did you figure that out? Like,
I think it's just like a thing that's like you die. Like when you do something like, you know, I was a trainer for a little while. I was like personal training because my buddy was like, dude, you should do this while I was trying to, like, you know, right out of college. And you're like, oh, I'm going to make some money, you know? Sure. I got a freaking art degree. You know,
I'm going to sculpt your body.
I was like so terrified that I couldn't get a real job. And my buddy's like, dude, you can make good money doing this. Trust me. And I was like, okay. And I was doing it. I was doing really well. And, you know, and some guys I know were still in that industry killing it, and I was just dead inside by a year. You know, I was like, I was working too hard, and I was like, I don't really care about the money. Like, I just want to paint, you know. And when I would sell a painting every now and then, it was like, oh, I made more than I made, you know, in training this month with this one painting. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was like weird that happened once in a while. And and that was where it was like, why am I not doing something different? Like, I can't picture myself clocking in, clocking out, driving home, and just not building something, you know. And there's that part of me that says, like, no matter what I do, like, you know, even if I quit my company and the company collapsed, like, I'd still be creating, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, you have to kill me to, like, make me stop.
They can't fire you from painting.
Right. It's like, I'd be, like, doing it with my feet if I had to, you know? I'd just be like, I could still do this.
So you believe that if you do what you love, the money will come?
I hate saying that just because, like, you know, doing what you love isn't enough. I you know, it's really like there's a lot of courage that comes in there, you know, and there's a lot of risks that come in there. And you know, I was just talking to someone about this earlier, saying that, like, you know, I can't tell you how, I'm like the biggest risk taker ever. Like, I just constantly am like gambling, you know, some more money on some project, or, you know, and you put yourself out there as a designer, and you're like, you know, this guy wants me to work with me on this project. They brought me on, and they're not going to pay me till the second week. Do I take it? Do I not take it? You know, it's like, what if they don't pay me? You know, and you're constantly taking these bigger and bigger risks to, like, keep growing your company or your own personal brand. Yeah. And it's like, it's never ending. The risks are never ending. So there has to be a level of courage, you know, that you're willing to go into these things with. You know, love is like the fuel that, like, lights the fire, but, you know, it's like courage and, like, faith in yourself and belief that you can get through it is the way to, you know, that's how you get through it.
That's the 5 o'clock hustle right there.
I mean, it goes back to what you were saying, like, yeah, we're going to go take a trip. And I don't know how I'm going to make money when I come back, but, you know, I know that I'm going to do it. I can't miss out on this opportunity. And I think that, you know, going back to what Dean said, it's like, if you love something or you're doing something that you're passionate about, the money will come. I think it's if you're passionate about it enough to, you know, kind of take that leap on yourself. Like, you have to be self-aware of your passion, you know, because I know a lot of people who will be like, oh, I want to be a singer, but, like, can't sing a lick. They're super passionate about singing. But it's like, it's not going to work out for you. But they're not self-aware, you know? Like, they don't.
Dean's raising his hand.
He's raising his hand. He's like, nice.
No, but it's just like that. You know, it's the self-awareness, like Dean was mentioning. Like, I think you hit on all those great points. The self-awareness and being self-aware about your passion, knowing that, like, hey, you know, I'm passionate about it, but I may not cut it at a certain point. But just having that confidence and that faith in yourself, like you said, once you know that this is exactly what you want to do, to be able to go on trips and come back and be like, I'm good.
Yeah, you have to. It's obvious. So you talked a lot about, or you didn't talk a lot about it, but you mentioned the pivot. And I don't know if a lot of people actually understand how important the pivot is. But you know, it kind of sprung for me from, I think it was a Steve Jobs speech that he made at one of his.
It's my dad's hero, probably.
Yeah, no, he was amazing, and basically
an artist in his own right.
What the pivot is doing something, looking at it, analyzing it, understanding the true value in it, even if it's not necessarily what you thought it was going to be, and then pivoting your approach to take on that full value and to exploit it, really. And, you know, and you talked about that. So is there a time when you think that you've had to kind of pivot in your own career?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's always happened. I mean, there was a point when my business partner would be like, if we could figure out what the hell we're doing, like, you know, like, we could make some money,
Right.
you know, because it's like, we always seems like we're doing something new, you know, like, because we were always exploring something new. And I remember there was a point where my studio was just like, you know, I was making like enough to make it by, and then my business partner got sick and she wasn't around, and I was like, oh my God, like, I'm in this on my own, like, she's got to go, you know, get better, you know, and she was going to be out of commission for a while. And I was sitting there, you know, life throws pivot opportunities, right? It's like either life or, you know, financial situations or in this case, it was just, I was kind of more on my own, and, you know, and there was a lot of, you know, I gotta pay those bills, you know, not just mine, but, you know, the other ones, all the other ones that are racking up. And, you know, I was like, well, maybe I can create an event, you know, maybe I can create this event, and then the event will bring in money, and I can go get it sponsored by people because they need that in this area. So I just did it, and like I made it happen. And then like in 2 months I had this big event, and the mayor was coming, and like all this stuff, and like, you know, everybody was talking about it, and I was bringing artists from LA, you know, to come to this event. And I remember my business partner was like, probably the best feeling of my business was when my business partner looked at me and was just like proud of me, and it was like better than any money, you know, situation I have ever had, because it was like I did something good out of this, and I was able to keep the business going when it was just me. You know, and awesome. Like that was, even though I couldn't afford to put on the event, I figured out how to pay it, you know, and it's constantly figuring out how to, like, say, if you don't have anything in the fuel tank, that's just an illusion, you know, like it's an illusion saying that you're out of money and you're out of opportunity. You know, it's like you have to be able to think outside the box and say, try something else.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But, you know, not a lot of people have that, and that's the entrepreneurial spirit. That's amazing.
Well, you could say, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs would probably say this, is once you're in it, you know, then it's you better do it or you quit. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's like, that's right. It's like, so it's like I had to do it. You know, it's like there was that sense of like survival mode instincts, you know, that fight or flight almost a little bit in with the pivot, I guess. I don't know.
Well, that's another interesting point, is that, you know, with the 5 o'clock hustle, a lot of times we refer to people that are doing something on the side. Mm-hmm. And that means that they may not have the same sense of urgency and the same, you know, burn under their ass, because we're still working on 9 to 5s. Yep. You know, the 5 o'clock hustle is a lot of times about the people that are looking at their passion, examining it, and finding out how they can make it a reality.
Yeah, right. Trying to give them the courage to push past that.
And that's another thing that both of you said now is courage. And, you know, it's a big step to...
Weird. Yeah, it's garage for podcasting.
It's a big step to jump into your passion project, jump into, you know, make your 5 o'clock hustle your 9 to 5 and your 5 to 12 and your everything else. And there's obviously some challenges that are going to be present, and, you know, and apparently you've navigated them really well. So it's really cool to see. Yeah.
Thanks, man. It's nice to feel some acknowledgement.
You should.
I'm telling you, that's like, you can't, like, money doesn't do it. Like, I'm telling people all the time, you know, as an artist, and you're like, oh, I just want to get this, like, big job and this big gig. And I'm like, dude, gigs come and go. Like, I don't care how big the gig is. You know, eventually you could be, you know, accepting an Oscar, you know, and it's like, if you didn't feel like there was a sense of accomplishment in what you're doing, then it just feels like empty. Like, you know, like you don't feel good about it. And I was like, when people acknowledge the specific journey that I'm on and like say, wow, like look at what he keeps trying to do, and like look at like how he thinks, and look at, you know, all those things, I think that's more rewarding than anything. Because then you're, like you said, you're seeing value in something deeper than just my art, you know, and like that is like where I'm like, that is amazing. That's the art. That is the most creative part of me, you know, and like, so it's like when I talk to my dad, you know, now that we're working together, it's cool to see him like light up when I really get into something and I'm like discussing some conceptualism, and like, you know, when I kind of create something where he's like, whoa, you know, like and it makes me feel good, because like I'm like, I never thought I could impress someone with such a impressive background. You know,
All right,
like,
so give us a teaser. What are you and your dad working on a little bit? Give us something as much as you can, as little as you can. Come on.
oh, I can.
Give us something a little bit.
It's
What we can say for the next time you come.
No, it's cool. It's cool. Totally. I mean, it's we've been working on it for a long time. We've got the .com, so we're pretty safe on a lot of things. It's an artificial like intelligence type of a software. You know, it's going to be a thinking software system that's going to be able to essentially solve a lot of problems in the gig economy, which is specifically around like the temporary workers and, you know, how businesses are implementing temporary workers into their business model.
Whoa.
Right. So with as that's scaling, it's becoming really like an overwhelming issue for the country. It's not a problem of, you know, can this one person, you know, do clean dishes, and is this a person that needs someone who can clean dishes? That's not the problem. It's really a more of a problem of the anarchy of the disorganized type of economy that we have, and, you know, not a really good network of communications. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to solve a lot of the structural issues in that economy and do something different, you know.
That's neat.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a weird project. We fell into it. Somebody came to him with the idea, and then I thought it was a cool idea, and it went from like this, oh, maybe if, you know, it picks up a little more speed, I'll focus more of my attention on it, right? 'Cause
sure,
that's really I'd say that's a huge component of being an entrepreneur and focus, you know, is where you focus, right? And it's like that's why you're working on multiple things at the same time, because, you know, if you lose focus and you're focusing on something that it doesn't seem like it has the right legs, you know, then you just wasted your time on this when you should have been looking at this, you know. And I nurtured it with him enough to where it got to something real, and now it's gotten to something real, and now we're going after a much larger investment fund with some bigger investors, and it's grown from a conceptual to we're in development now. So it's really cool.
That's incredible.
That's
man.
so crazy. Like that's such a different thing.
Yeah. I know, right? It's like I was like, oh yeah, and I paint paintings.
Well, that's a good point though. So how are you? You know, a lot of people that are listening to this podcast are going to be balancing 2, 3, 4, 5 different projects.
Perfect.
How is it affecting, you know, your passion project?
Right.
You are the creator. You are, you know, the artist, the painter. What's the balance like?
It's funny you say that. I mean, I always find time to touch a pencil to paper, and, you know, it's like instinctive that I'll draw something. Or, you know, now I'm working on this, one of those iPad tablets. So that, you know, sometimes I'm working on something for work right on that tablet, and then, you know, I'm on my way somewhere else and I'm drawing something for the other job. You know, it's like, I always tell people, I'm like, you should be able to paint 3 paintings at the same time if you really want to be a great painter, because then you can work on 3 different processes at the same time. You could say, I'm working on this, you know, shoe study over here, I'm working on this bear study over here, and I'm working on this, you know, landscape study over here, and I learned something from each project.
Cool.
You know, and I merged it together, and it's like the same way of being, right? It's like now it's just another medium and another project that I'm throwing in the mix and balancing, and that's why it's like it's almost a have to, you know, as a creative individual. Like I say, like, you know, the more projects, the better. Like,
Cool. That's amazing. Yeah.
Keeps those creative
it's not a bad
juices flowing,
thing.
yeah.
No, of
Because
course.
some people would say it was a bad thing, you know, like entrepreneur, like investors might even be like, well, he's not focused on
more
the main
focus,
thing that we need you to be. And I'm like, well, for my position, like, I need to be thinking outside the box. So I need to be, I need to exercise my abstract part of my mind. You know, I need to like exercise thinking that way, you know, and if I'm always just thinking about, you know, filling in the gaps and making something, this one thing, then I'm not thinking about other things and seeing other things and studying other things that will stimulate something, and then see there's a connection between that thing and this thing, you know?
Yeah, and I could see that. I mean, that's such a beneficial mindset to have, especially for, you know, our audience and our listeners, because a lot of people, they're in a position, you know, working 9 to 5 in a place that does nothing for them at all. Like whether it's creatively, whether it's intellectually, like maybe
monetarily.
Exactly. And I think that being able to, like, for me, you know, I've worked in the service industry, construction, everything like that. And I've always kind of opened my mind to find the artistic part of it, you know. So whether it's like I'm serving plates, it's like, oh, you're kind of almost an entertainer, like you're putting on a show for the people who are in front of you. Or, you know, if you're in a construction type setting, it's like, oh, you know, look at the shapes of this, look at how these things connect, look at the design of it. And I think that having your mind open to that will eventually help people like who are in the position of the 5 o'clock hustlers to, like you said, be able to pull from here and bring it over to their passion project, you know, just kind of keep that mind up. So I think that's really important that you said that.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and we don't have to do this right now, but when we were talking about doing that little exercise or game or whatever, that could be an interesting thing to do right now.
Oh, man.
Right?
So we were talking about a segment
I
that
always
would
lose
be.
games.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you love games. You're very
I'm
creative.
the worst. I yell at my wife when she pulls out of some board game. I'm like, just put that shit away.
You guys must crush it in Pictionary, though, right?
No, I'm the worst, dude. I'm the worst at Pictionary. Like, do not pick me on your team. Yeah, like, I can draw, but, like, don't put me on your team, because what happens is I get too into it, and I take so long, because I'm like, oh, wait, but, like, no, this thing has a freckle, and, like, you know, and then they're like, wait, what is it? And other people are done because they drew something that, like, just got the word, or, I don't know. I suck at it.
It's like it's a frog. It's like,
Yeah.
what were you drawing? I was drawing the lily pad, but I wasn't finished yet.
So we were talking about last week. We were actually talking about doing a segment. It kind of similar to how it's made, but it focuses on. This is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
sort
cool.
of. We'll see.
No, the other game.
And it kind of focuses on different pieces of the entrepreneurial creative process and how certain parts of your success are achieved. So that's pretty broad. You know, so maybe with you, it'd be interesting to talk about someone that has a product. You have a product, right? You created your product.
Sure.
You are painting and creating your product whenever that was, you know, whether it's a mural or a canvas or whatever it may be. And there's going to be people out here that are really interested in how you took that product and turned it into revenue. And really the process behind it. I mean, like, where do you post it? Like, what do you do? How do you market it? How do you show it? How did you create a show?
Yeah.
How did you create a fucking show for your artwork that had hundreds of people that show up? How did you, as someone as creative as you are, create an event where people come and look at artwork and purchase your things, and you're the fucking Cookie Monster right now. I mean, like, how did you create that circumstance? Like, literally, how did you were there and you painted something?
Are they just mad up there?
I'm so pissed at us upstairs.
There's people upstairs that are just doing a floppy dance.
They're
I don't know.
practicing their
We'll go.
WWE.
We can't be mad about their creative spirit. You express yourselves.
So on this segment of how you did it,
Right. Or so you think you can dance.
Exactly.
Sorry.
no, it's perfect.
Yeah, you did it.
What did you do to turn your product that you just created into money for yourself?
Yeah,
Like, literally,
I hear what
you
you're
know
saying. Yeah, and I totally know the answer to this.
Okay.
It's simple.
Cool.
It's a
And
simple
that's what it
answer.
always is,
yeah,
right?
It's a
It's
simple.
crazy.
It's a simple
Yeah, go
answer.
ahead.
It's branding. You know, it's branding. You know, the name Cookie was a brand. You know it's almost like you have to have an idea of who you want to be. Like, right? You have to hold something out.
In the eyes of who? Yourself or the
of
consumer?
yourself in general. Like, you have to hold something out there. You need to create a vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's why every company has a vision statement, a mission statement, right? They may not have that day one, right? It's like, of course they couldn't. You know, you can't build a tech company overnight and say that, you know, the Apple has built the iPhone X. You know, they built the iPhone and it wasn't anything like the iPhone X. Now they're like, this is the phone we've been trying to build the whole time, right? So, and it's important for you to understand that there is going to be an evolution, that there is going to be a struggle to get to your vision, right? And you know, as close as you can get to it, the very first try, it's like, man, there's some success in there because you could do like check. I didn't get that, but next time I'll get that, and then next time I'll get that right after, because it's that vision of this brand you're creating. And I think,
How did you create so let's go less theoretically and more practically.
No, totally. I was going to go right into the cookie.
Cool. Thank you.
Totally right into the cookie. With that as, cookie, I was working for Justin Bua, and he had his own brand, Bua. Bua, everything was Bua, and the way he signed everything was a very particular way, and then, the way his characters looked was a very particular way, and the color palettes he used was a very particular way. And I was just noticing that there was like a pattern, that he had, and he set this pattern and just kind of kept running with that. And, some artists that works, and that's become kind of a known thing that, like you say, I'm a stencil artist, so I will stencil until people start liking it and start buying it, produce until they start buying. Make them see that you're not going to stop. You're serious. This is something that you really do. There's value in what I do. I built a following, But with Cookie, I said, I don't know what Cookie is yet. I don't know what could be. I think it's like the beginning of creating these characters, because I love to create characters. But, am I going to be something like Bua, or am I going to be something like trying to build a clothing line around it? I've experimented with so many things with my brand that I still don't know what I'm going to be, and like being a painter and doing those stuff, it's good because I sell it, but people buy into the brand, and I'm going to be honest, like sometimes I'm like, are they buying the painting from me, or are they buying it from Cookie?
Yeah.
Right.
Or do they really want the Cookie in their house, right? Because I can't tell you how many people love to introduce me as Cookie. Like, I'll be like with some person, they'll be like, hey, you remember this guy? It's Cookie. I walk in to meet Howie Mandel. He's like, hey, it's Cookie. You know what I mean? Like, everybody has to call me that. Yeah. And it's like, they love that face. They love the Cookie face.
And you call him Howie.
Yeah, well, right, 100%. You don't call him, Mr. Mandel and like walk up to him and shake his hand. I know
you fist pound. Yeah, you
he's a German friend. Right, sorry, that's right.
It's a brand.
He'd get pissed if I tried to shake his hand. But sure. No, he's like the nicest guy in the world.
He's
but
really just a handful of paint. That's what I imagine. Just
right. But it's branding. It's branding. Branding is the secret to everything. You have to understand what a brand really is, though. That's the key. I mean, really, everyone's trying to, I would say, mimic like an example of what they're trying to do. That's a very normal thing to do in branding, right? You say, I want to build a beer brand, and I'm going to use this label as a reference, and I'm going to use, try to build my own brand. It's going to be a little different, but it's going to be similar to these brands, right? And they don't know what differentiation really means, so they'll try to be different, but really they're not really differentiating, not really. Yeah. And that's why you get a lot of mediocre products.
That's tough. That's a tough thing to crack, especially with people who are not exactly creatives.
Right. And I mean, I had to get my master's to understand. I had to read books and like write papers and expand my belief on it, and learn how much I suck at branding to become even better at it. To be at a point where I could get paid for someone to say, hey, give me some brand advice.
So once you understood how to brand yourself, or once you felt that you did, or whatever, you were confident about it. Literally, how did you sell your shit? I mean, like, what did you do? Where did you put it? Did you put it up in a room?
No,
did you put it online?
I started selling stuff online first. I mean, how'd you do that? Facebook. I must have sold so much through Facebook when I still make a lot of money through Facebook.
Cool. That's great.
I mean, I post stuff all the time, and it looks like nobody's like saying something, but somebody hit me up in a message, down the road and be like, hey, you want to do a mural? Like, hey, you want to do my album cover? Hey, do you want, and you're like, okay. So it's like you just keep producing and you keep pushing out, right? You keep showing the value of your brand, right? And you publish a book. Like, I'm working on a book right now and trying to publish that. It's a struggle to get it out there, but as soon as I'm done, it just adds more value to the brand, right?
I want to get into that. Let's not forget about that. Touch back on the book.
So it's like, it's definitely something that it's valuable to me to just say, like, how can Cookie keep growing, keep getting more sophisticated in its own way, think beyond the kids room mentality or something, because at first you become like gimmicky and you know, people want to buy something, and like I said, they're like, oh, I want cookie, and they just buy it because there's a cute picture and it says cookie on the wall, you know what I mean? And that's cool, and it got sales, but then you're like, I want to be more established, I want to be more this, and you're like, what is that thing that creates that illusion, right? What is the thing that people buy into as a brand to show that now I'm this, you know? And I just realized that I just had to keep experimenting and having fun, and when I dug into it and really, you know, grinded my teeth with some of my ideas, I started coming with even more sophisticated, you know, paintings, you know, things that I was proud of, and like, ooh, I see where this is really going now. That's like, you know, and not like, it's some stupid shit.
Stupid fucking shit.
Stupid shit.
All right. Well, we're almost about an hour right now, and we got a ton of really awesome stuff from you.
Yeah.
You've been an amazing guest. Yeah. I do want to go back to your book, though. Tell us about your book. You got a GoFundMe account, GoFundMe thing. Campaign.
Yeah, it's like GoFundMe.com/cookiesbook.
Yeah, and it looks amazing. I did a thing.
Oh yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
so tell us about
pretty
it.
exciting. It looks amazing. Like, I don't know how. Like, do you have a physical?
It took me I got the mock-ups, and I'm probably going to be making revisions. You know, after we're done fundraising, and then we'll be pushing out the first copies, and then we'll put them online and let Amazon sell them and stuff. But I wanted to do like a limited edition set first that was autographed and hand drawings like input into it, like kind of really personalized to like the real people who've been investing into my work over the years, because obviously, I'm not gonna like knock on everyone's door and be like, hey, buy a book. It's like, it's just a thing. Like you don't make a book to make a lot of money. You make a book to make a book and to make that accomplishment, and like I said, it's a value to my work, to my brand. And I enjoy it. I enjoy looking at something and being like, oh, that's me. That's the old stuff. That's the old stuff in one place. And it's not like in my studio where it's all over the place and there's like things stuffed in here. Like, luckily, I took a lot of photos and had them professionally photographed over the years, and I have lots of stuff to be able to throw into a book.
So what's the book about?
It's called the Discovery Edition. Cool. It's about discovering yourself as an artist. So it's really specifically, obviously, about me and about how I found the name Cookie and like where the name Cookie came from and why I've kind of evolved over the years, and how you can see literally when you're looking through the book, you can see how I went from like these cute little panda paintings to robots to, bear paintings to more sophisticated stuff. And you can see through the drawings that, there's a certain level of emotional impact in the newer stuff than the older stuff. And you can tell, you can see the evolution. And that's what I thought was an important thing to tell people who loved my work, is that it's evolving. It's always evolving. And like, I'm glad you like it, but it's going to keep changing.
Yeah. And they can grow with you too. I mean, if you give them that opportunity, someone that subscribed to you in the panda phase gets to grow with you and learn with you. And not only, then they're going to want to keep investing in you because they enjoy you as a creative mind and as a person that gives them enjoyment too. So that's really interesting. That's cool.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, is that I feel like with people who write books, like it's almost like a subconscious thing. Everybody's like, oh, I'm going to close that chapter in my life and I'm going to write in it. It's like, I feel like you made a book to like signify like, this is how I got here. Yeah. And now you obviously are elevating to new and better things. Mm-hmm. You're starting the other book, but you're putting this one out to, chronicle how you got there, like it's almost like you're elevating to the next spot. Right. So
I told him that's a funny you say those specific. I've said that I was like, this was a great way for me to feel like I'm letting go of something and being a part of something else. And cool. and you have to realize that you can't let other people tell you who you are. You need to let go of the defining yourself so easily, right? You need to like stop trying to say, I am this artist, I am this businessman, I am this, receptionist, whatever it is. I need to be open to being someone new and to keep exploring and that's what we are, we're meant to be adventurers, we're meant to be livers, right? And like, if you're adventuring through your studies, it's just as good as adventuring out there in the real world.
Yeah, man. Truer words.
Well, the book looks amazing. I'm really excited to see it and hold it and just smell it. Where can people find that more information about that?
On my Instagram.
On
You can go
Instagram.
right on my Instagram page, aka Cookie Official. If you just look up aka Cookie, usually you can find it really
cool.
quickly.
And I'll link to everything in our show
Yeah,
notes
we'll
and
link it
stuff.
all for sure.
This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was awesome having you on, man.
Yeah, you could talk here forever. It's like
Yeah,
super
yeah.
comfortable.
And the ear muffins just make it feel so
intimate.
good. All right. Well, thanks again for coming on. Thank
for
you
having me.
everybody for listening to the 5 O'Clock Hustle podcast.
5
You can
O'Clock
find us at
Hustle.
5o'clockhustle.com. Find all our social media stuff there. Thanks for listening again.
Thank you. Good night.
Are we going to do the drum thing? No, don't.
We probably should, though.
No, I really didn't want to do it.